All right. So, what's good, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. If you're new here, I'll introduce myself. My name's Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, out here in Budapest, Hungary on December 4th, 2023. Happy birthday to Jay-Z. Shout out to one of the greatest rappers of all time. And yeah, on this channel, we talk about all sorts of topics, mostly dealing with Black Americans, race issues, global things that are happening in Africa, just whatever I feel like is pertinent in relation to the content that is related to my channel. And that's been the stuff that I've been covering for a while now. So y'all go check out all the other lives, all the other videos I've done, and everything like that. And today we're going to be talking about one of our greatest rock stars. We're talking about one of our greatest rock stars today. We're talking about Mr. Lenny Kravitz. Yes, one of the last true American black rock stars out here. He made me want to pick up the guitar just to strum out something with y'all for right now. Love Lenny Kravitz, dope artist. As you guys know, I'm a writer for another YouTube channel called Culturalist Theory. And on that channel, we rank albums from best to worst. And I've written about 6 reviews for them. I got a new review coming soon for DJ Quick, so y'all go check that out. But I would love to do Lenny Kravitz for that channel. In fact, I made a request a few months ago to cover Lenny Kravitz. I wanted to listen to all of his albums, put them in from top to bottom, best to worst, and all that, because I really think he's an underappreciated artist in Black American music and in modern American music. He's probably one of the most famous rock stars, known as a sex symbol around the world to various women and stuff like that. Is a great guitar player, great songwriter, has a monster image, monster reputation. He's dope. He's a dope all around artist. And we love Lenny Kravitz. But I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't dug deep into his discography yet, but I will do it for Culturalist Theory. That will be something I do next year. So y'all go check that out. Anyway, this is going to be a very long read today. And I find this interesting because Lenny Kravitz is giving it all up in this Esquire article. And this Esquire article came out on November 29th, 2023. It's only a few days old. So it's hot off the presses. And it's going to be very dope because he's talking about what it's like to be a black rock star, racism in the rock and roll industry, feeling unwanted by black entertainment media, feeling like he's not black enough for BET because we'd never seen Lenny Kravitz get spins on BET. We never saw him at the BET Awards. And if anybody deserves to be there, it's not Sexy Red. It's Lenny Kravitz. Let's keep it real. So let's get into this article. This might be a very long live stream, the longest live stream I've ever done, but I hope you enjoy it. So let's get into it. Lenny Kravitz wants to clear a few things up as he prepares to drop his first album in more than 5 years with a massive tour to follow. The rock and style icon talks candidly about family, faith, sex, love, and legacy. The story was written by Madison Vane and photographs by Norman Jean Roy and styling by Matthew Henson. Once again, published only a few days ago. Let's get into it. Lenny Kravitz does not blend in. We're sitting in Bemelin's, the iconic piano bar at the Upper East Side's historic Carlisle Hotel. Here, things are done properly. Have been since 1947. Waiters wear white coats. Cocktails served exclusively in etched crystal glasses arrive on silver trays. Fancy little bowls full of fancy little bar snacks adorn the tables. Murals by Ludwig Bemelins of the Madeline Children's Book fame decorate the walls. And some of the country's most celebrated jazz pianists still play the black and whites nightly. It is a place completely synonymous with old school New York glamour. It's also maybe the last place you'd expect to spot a certified rock god during daylight hours. All right, very interesting write up so far. I like the writing style. As a writer myself, I can appreciate good writing, and this is dope. So, but this is where Kravitz wanted to meet. So here we are. It's 3 p.m. on a very rainy Yom Kippur. The remnants of Tropical Storm Ophelia are battering Manhattan outside, and the sparser than usual crowd is almost entirely drinking martinis. Kravitz, who is staying at his daughter's Brooklyn apartment while she's holed up in his Paris home, looks like he beamed in straight from 1975. Tailored brown leather jacket, turtleneck, flared trousers. His signature locks are pulled half back, and gold rings wrap around a few of his fingers. He orders a hot green tea. Shout out to Lenny Kravitz, always stylistically dope. I'm not feeling the style in this picture, but he's Lenny Kravitz. He can pull it off, man. He can pull it off. So Here's another picture of him. Yeah, it's not the style I would rock, if I was a rock star. I mean, there is a certain aesthetic to rock star chic, but you have to have a certain build, a certain frame. I ain't got that look, you know what I mean? I'm more top heavy, big shoulders, big arms, that sort of thing. But skinny guys like Lenny Kravitz, Jimi Hendrix, Gary Clark Jr., they can pull off the rock star aesthetic. Not for me. So, coat, hoodie, and jeans by Balenciaga, stepping out, styling on him. That's the look he's got on his face. Yeah, I'm styling on a bitch right now. Yeah, I feel you, Lenny. Anyway, let's go here. Surprisingly enough, Kravitz is right at home at the Carlisle. This is where his mom, Roxy Roker, then an assistant at NBC and an aspiring actress, asked Bobby Short, the fabled cabaret singer who headlined here for decades, if she should accept the marriage proposal of a news producer who worked in her building named Cy Kravitz. Replied Short, I don't see anyone else asking. When Lenny's classmates were with sitters on Saturday nights, Short visited him and his parents at their table between sets. He met Andy Warhol here many years later at a party for Bret Easton Ellis. Kravitz even hosted his dad's final birthday party here in the early 2000s. This place is all over my life, he says plainly. Very interesting story. I think we all know that Lenny Kravitz is a biracial man, though to me, biracialism doesn't exist for black people who have a fully black parents. To me, in my mind, Lenny Kravitz is a black man who just so happens to have a white father. So, I think growing up in a household like that, probably influenced how he sees his blackness and that sort of stuff. Because I believe his father is a white Jewish man and his mother is a, black American woman. So let's continue reading here. Besides, has Kravitz ever blended in? The only son of Roxy and Cy, he is equal parts his mother, a black woman of Bahamian descent. Pardon, she's not American, she's Bahamian, and his white Jewish father, whose family came to America from Kiev before Cy was born. Growing up biracial in the 60s and 70s, Kravitz stuck out as much in the largely white East 80s of Manhattan as he did in the primarily black Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, where he lived during the week with his maternal grandparents while his parents worked in the city. It wasn't a problem. So yeah, Lenny Kravitz has both different cultures like Ukrainian Jewish white culture and Bahamian black culture running in his blood, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with being biracial or having different identities that you can pull from and that sort of thing. The only problem with being biracial sometimes is the identity crisis that can appear. And a lot of the times, it's not the fault of black people that create the identity crisis. I feel like a lot of the times it's the white supremacist society. And being so far away in proximity to whiteness while actually having white in you could be frustrating for a lot of people. A lot of guys like Lenny Kravitz probably feel like, well, he can't truly be who he wants to be as a rock star or be seen as a rock star because he doesn't have the skin to blend in, the complexion for the protection. And he can't also be seen fully as a true great American black artist, part of that tradition and that sort of thing. Number one, because his mother is not from the US, but also because of that white blood that runs in him as well. So he might not be seen as that. But once again, we as black people, at least black Americans, don't do the whole colored identity, the whole thing about being mulatto or light skin and that sort of stuff. We might joke with each other about, you acting light skin or having light skin tendencies or stuff like that. But those are just jokes. We don't systemically abuse our light skinned brothers and sisters. We see them as black just as us. And, any identity crisis that might exist with them is within them. It is not created because of black people. I'll just say that. I'm getting that out of there because that's my opinion. But I want to hear Lenny's story. That's why we're going to read all this. So let's continue here. I was comfortable, says the man who decades later would push the boundaries of rock and fashion, the very definition of cool, even into new frontiers. I dug that. Here's Lenny again, looking fantastic, man. Looking fantastic. I wish I had the build. I wish I kept my hair. Yeah, I wish I still had my hair, man. Those are those Ukrainian genes kicking in. No, I think white folks have a tendency to bald more than black people. I think these are my Ukrainian genes kicking in. Anyway, trousers and cuff bracelet by Chrome Hearts, topped by Ludovic Descent, Cernin, stacked bracelets and ring Kravitz own. All right, shout out to Lenny Kravitz, always keeping it fly. I could not pull off leather pants, man. I cannot pull off leather pants. Avery Adams jumped into the chat. He said, "Yo, LMAO." Hey, man. Well, I'm just giving Lenny props, man. He knows how to dress. He dresses like a rock star, man. I just can't pull off leather pants. I can't pull off, silk satin scarves, bedazzled looking like you grabbed it from your mother's closet or grandma's drawer. I can't do that, but rock stars can do it, like Lenny. Anyway, continuing here. Colson Whitehead once wrote that everyone's New York is the New York they first arrive in, that they begin building their own private skyline the moment they lay eyes on the city. Kravitz, 59. Damn, he's 59? Kravitz is 50, Lenny Kravitz is 59 years old, bro. I gotta turn vegan, man. I gotta go vegan. I want to look like this when I'm 59. See, those are his black genes kicking in. God damn, my boy is 59 years old. That's hard. That's hard. See, that gives me hope. That gives me hope I can turn my life around, turn vegan. You know what I mean? Maybe I can grow some locks and live on a beach in the Bahamas. Man, 59 years old. That's crazy. Anyway, black don't crack. Avery Adams said, I can't do the leather pants either. Yeah, most men, most men can't do leather pants, man. Avery Adams says, yeah, his daughter, 30 something. See, I didn't even put two and two together. You know what I mean? And I don't really be paying attention to the Kravitz daughters. I know one of them is famous. She was in the Batman movie and that sort of stuff, but I don't be paying attention to the age. I thought she was like, early 20s or something. Anyway, continuing. Kravitz, 59, has arrived in Manhattan a few times, always welcomed by a different city. His parents had an apartment around the corner from the Metropolitan Museum of Art on 82nd Street. He spent his middle and high school years in Los Angeles, but returned in the late 80s when he moved in with his girlfriend, Lisa Bonet, Denise Huxtable herself. And a decade and a half later, after trying out both New Orleans and Miami, he came back with his and Bonet's daughter, a then teenage Zoe Kravitz. Yeah, I think Zoe Kravitz is the famous one. Zoe Kravitz is the one that, a lot of girls really like. A lot of women are fans of Zoe Kravitz. They like her style, they like her aesthetic, they think she's dope. Me personally, I don't think Zoe Kravitz is hot. I don't think, I'm not, I don't think any of Kravitz's daughters are hot. Not that that matters. You know what I mean? I hope Lenny Kravitz doesn't watch this video and get mad at me because I don't think his daughters are hot, because he should be more mad at me if I said I wanted to smash Zoe Kravitz. But either way, they're dope people. She's a good actress. She has her fan base. Shout out to the Kravitz family, dope lineage. Anyway, Kravitz misses all of his past lives in New York for different reasons. But as Whitehead predicted, his true New York is the one that sitting here in Belmillins brings him back to, the Upper East Side. After all, he says it changes more slowly than perhaps any other neighborhood in the city. Lobel's, his mother's favorite butcher shop, remains around the corner from their old apartment. Their preferred cafe, EEAT, is still just down the street. Of course, some things inevitably change. And like any New Yorker, Kravitz delights in recalling what a current building used to be. Example, the Nectar Diner on 82nd and Madison, once the Copper Lantern, where young Lenny first learned to tie his shoes. All right, so Lenny Kravitz grew up on the Upper East Side. And if I don't know New York that well, you guys know I'm from Louisiana. But isn't the Upper East Side like one of the most ritziest parts, like the richest parts of New York, even back in the 70s and 80s when like New York was like a crime infested hellscape and like burnt down dilapidated buildings were like everywhere. I'm being facetious here, but I'm just saying New York has always been expensive, but hasn't the Upper East Side always been expensive? You get what I'm saying? Like that's been one of the ritziest parts. So I hope, when we read more into Lenny's story that they bring into the class part of it, because Lenny grew up, I imagine, upper middle class, if not, high class society. But y'all let me know. It's the Upper East Side as fancy as I think it is. Anyway. So he rarely comes to town just to visit. It's almost always for work, and this trip is no exception. When he's in New York, he is typically in a constant state of motion, though you get the sense that Kravitz himself wouldn't use the word work to describe his various ventures in interior design, philanthropy, and spirits. He's just as busy as ever this week, but it's in service of his first love. For the first time since 2018, he is on the verge of releasing new music, Blue Electric Light, a buoyant, occasionally blistering electro funk collection, drops May 15th. I'm going to check out the album. Shout out to Lenny Kravitz. Once again, I want to listen to all of his work. I think he's underappreciated, and I would like to educate myself on his catalog. Kravitz has long favored first person storytelling and song, but on two of his recent releases, he mainly looked outward. Black and White America 2011, brimming with Obama era optimism, imagines life in the USA beyond the racial divide. Raised Vibration 2018 bears witness to the come down, urging positivity as the necessary response to the divisive Trump tenure. With this new set, Kravitz's attention has returned inward. His testimony to the power of self love and personal evolution is searingly specific and at times downright anthemic. It also, and this is important, flat out cooks musically. So, once again, shout out to Lenny Kravitz because I think people don't, realize that he's probably in his music been talking a lot about race issues, what it's like to be a black man through his music and that sort of stuff. But we have to understand and we have to just, be plain and accept that, rock and roll is no longer black music. Black people don't check for rock and roll like that, even though we should, because it's the music that our ancestors invented, and it left an indelible mark on American music and culture and that sort of stuff. But Lenny Kravitz, even if he's talking hella pro black in his music, or if he's talking about some real substantive issues, he should probably talk about this stuff in media more if he wants that message to reach people like me and other black people. Because, he might be talking about it on his rock album, but that's not playing in our radios. That's not on our Spotify playlist or our SoundCloud, recommendations and that sort of stuff. Gonna continue here. So here's Lenny Kravitz rocking out again. Shout out to Lenny, man. I always saw him on TV growing up on MTV, but never on BET. Always on VH1, but never on black owned stations or black targeted stations. So the arrival of Blue Electric Light marks the end of the longest span Kravitz has gone between albums since his 1989 debut, Let Love Rule. 10 records followed his first one, each dropping at a steady clip. The pandemic shut down a lot. Uh, the pandemic shutdown had a lot to do with the atypical 5 year lag time. But Kravitz credits the isolation imposed by COVID with triggering a period of a powerful creativity and reflection. Yeah, COVID was an opportunity. All right. COVID was an opportunity for everybody to get their mind right and do things differently. When COVID happened, I was in Tunisia teaching English, and then I got flown back out to the US and I had to switch up my style and I got heavy on the internet, started teaching online, grinding online. And shout out to the internet. It changed my life. Wouldn't have made it through COVID without it. Avery Adams said, never on BET. Yep. Kravitz was never on BET. And that's a shame because I think a lot of black people would have liked his music because we liked Andre 3000. We liked Missy Elliott. We like CeeLo. We like Khalees. We like all of our alternative, artists. Kravitz could have had a fan base with us too, but they never gave him the shine. But I also think maybe his record label didn't want to promote him to black artists because maybe they felt like it would have been a waste of advertisement money. Because that's how the record execs think. They say, all right, we only have so much money for advertising. Let's just put Lenny on the white stations because you know what? That's most likely who he's going to appeal to. But black people like rock and roll too. You get what I'm saying? Anyway, Kravitz showed up at his Bahamas home in March 2020 with enough clothes for a weekend. 2 years into a 3 year tour at the time, he thought he'd stop at the beach for a few days to recharge between runs of shows, but then the next leg got canceled, and the next. Kravitz stayed for the better part of the next 2.5 years. Yeah, I saw a video of Lenny Kravitz like doing runs on the beach in the Bahamas, eating like raw carrots blended in like a in a smoothie. Like Lenny Kravitz lives an extravagant lifestyle, man. You got to learn how to play guitar, guys. If you want to get girls, you want to be rich, learn how to drop a C, but not like that. Tune your guitar first. Let's jump in. Let's jump back into this. So, musical inspiration finds him on Eleuthera, the island he calls home. He bought 30 acres when he signed his first record deal and for a long time lived in an airstream on his own beach. He still has it, though he's since built a proper house elsewhere on the property. There's a garden out back where he grows his own fruits and vegetables, a studio nearby. Shoes go out the window, he says. There's no keys, no wallets, no money. You start to go with nature. Kravitz is normally a night owl, going to bed around 5 a.m. in the morning and waking up at noon. But after a certain amount of time there, he resets. Heads to bed shortly after dark, wakes up early. During the longest stretch of stillness of staying in one place in his adult life, music poured out. At times, he barely slept at all, waking up at all hours, hearing melodies in his head and racing to get them down. He had 3 separate albums in progress. It was chaotic and occasionally hard to organize. Harder still to finish, but as the world began to open and live shows returned to calendars, Kravitz tinkered away in the studio, testing different arrangements, dialing up the drums, lowering the vocals, mixing songs and then mixing them again 1,000 times, he says. I kept polishing. Shout out to Lenny, man, because he sounds like he's really in the studio cooking it up. I want to see Lenny Kravitz collab with like Dr. Dre. I want to see like the Dr. Dre sound, like crisp, production and live instrumentation that Lenny brings mixed with the Dr. Dre mixing, and a beat would be dope as hell. So I want to see that happen because he sounds like he's really in the studio cooking up that heat, cooking that dope, cooking that crack. Yeah. So he expects we'll hear the two other sets, but mostly completed someday. But the music on Blue Electric Light is what he's feeling now, he says. This one spoke to me. He'll devote the next 6 months to promotion and then the next couple of years to a world tour. He's ready for all of that. Hungry, in fact. This one has to come out. So here's Lenny Kravitz drumming in the rain. Every picture of Lenny Kravitz looks cool as hell. Like Lenny Kravitz is like the avatar that I wish I was, bro. Every picture he looks cool as hell, man. I wish I still had my locks low key. Anyway, shirt, trousers, and boots. Saint Laurent by Anthony Vaccarello. Cuff bracelet by Chrome Hearts. Saint Laurent's by Anthony Vaccarello, sunglasses and ring Kravitz own. So yeah, man, you gotta go vegan, man. That's the key. If you're black, you're blessed with good genes to not age, but man, you gotta take care of your health. That's something I wish I could do more, and I will do more. I promise. I'm gonna turn my life around, guys. So. It feels like Lenny Kravitz has been the epitome of cool forever. But when Let Love Rule debuted, it did so to lukewarm response stateside. You could argue that people didn't get it, didn't get him. As hip hop was exploding in popularity, here was a 24-year-old black man from New York were rattling with pumped up LPs from the likes of Aerosmith and Motley Crue. Raw and insular, at times even delicate, there was nothing else like his sound gaining traction. I look at him as someone who stuck to the guns, says longtime friend and occasional collaborator Jay Z. Okay, Hove popped up in the article. I wonder if they interviewed Hove for the article. We need an Esquire article on Hove. We need some deep dives on Hove right now. Because what are you doing, Hove? We need that new album, man. We need a mixtape. We need some more verses than just the God did verse. Man, somebody pulled Jay by his dreads. Tell him to get a retwist and come holla at us. We need a breakfast club. We need something, man. Sit down with Drink Champs. Jay Z, where you at? Anyway, let's go here. This is what I like, says Jay Z. This is the type of music I like to create, he adds. You always applaud that. Someone who stays and does what they do and doesn't follow trends. Someone who has that confidence in what they're doing is very rare. Europe was different. His crowds were growing faster there. So he toured and toured and toured abroad. Then he dropped his second album, 1991's Mama Said, equal parts gritty and tender and musically steeped in the 60s. It defied trends and expectations. The set went platinum, and his rock and roll peers were suddenly curious. Bruce Springsteen came to a show and became a friend. Prince too. And when the purple one met Kravitz, he told him in no uncertain terms, "We're going to be brothers." Absolutely dope that Lenny finally got his big break. The worst that can happen to an artist is your first album actually being more successful or being so successful. Because, like, how 50 Cent came out with Get Rich or Die Trying, sold like 10 million copies. And ever since then, for 50, it's been like downhill musically and commercially. Same with a lot of rappers, like Nas, too, comes out with Illmatic. And every album since then, people are comparing it to Illmatic. So Lenny kind of had it good because when you break out on your second joint, people are more like, okay, there's a history to this guy that we can dig back into. We can look at his first album. And on top of that, he probably has a lot more to say because he didn't put it all into his first album. His best foot was on his second album. You get what I'm saying? Really looking forward to diving more into his catalog, but let's dig in here. So Mick Jagger, a personal hero of Kravitz, even wanted to hang out. Kravitz was floored. Jagger came backstage before a show and spur of the moment, they decided they should sing together that night, live. Learned the song just before the house lights dimmed. Afterwards, Jagger went back to Kravitz's hotel and the two spent the night talking and toking up. I saved that roach for like 10 years, Kravitz says. What happened to it then? I was out of weed and I smoked it. He replies, laughing. That's crazy. That's crazy. But even after his next two albums, Are You Gonna Go My Way, 1993, whose title track became a pop culture statement, and Circus, 1995, did better than better again, cracking the top 20 and then the top 10 of the all genre Billboard 200 albums chart, Kravitz struggled to be taken seriously by the rock critic establishment. Maybe it wasn't that they didn't get it. Maybe it was that they didn't want him to have it. Yeah, absolutely. Let's keep it real, man. Let's keep it real. White folks have been happy as hell about rock and roll being theirs since we sort of gave it up, or since they sort of like forced themselves to have it. Let's keep it absolutely real, because nowadays you have to sort of like argue and convince people, or at the very least remind them who were the progenitors of this great American art form. And so guys like Lenny Kravitz coming in and making a bold statement, not being aggressive with it, but just coming in and saying like, we make great music too, or I make great music at the very least. This is threatening to the white establishment, because they've made so much money off rock and roll. They turned so many of their working class, poor white trash into millionaires. All the rock stars are basically the rappers for white people. They're the white trash trailer parks. The Beatles were literally like, slum kids from Britain or whatever. You get what I'm saying? They turn their white trash into millionaires, and they don't criticize them the same way black people criticize our rappers. Our lower class people, black people, they become successful rappers, entertainers, ball players, and that sort of thing. And we criticize them heavily. But do we hear the white folks going off on Marilyn Manson? Do we hear the white folks going off on Limp Bizkit? Do we hear them tearing down Motley Crue and Slipknot and that sort of thing? No, 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 no. Because they realize, you know what, for their lower sector of their community, they have an outlet, which is rock and roll. And they don't say thank you to black people. So Lenny Kravitz coming in, being a successful, rich black man, making money off of this art form that comes from black people, but has now been hijacked by the others. It becomes something like, okay, you know what, we can't let them have it. We can't let them have it. So they probably tried to, push him out. They probably tried to push him out. They didn't want to see Lenny win. They didn't want to see you win. And once again, Lenny looks cool as hell in every single picture. Every single picture, Lenny looks dope. Looks dope. So jacket, vest, and trousers by Gucci. Gucci Man be designing Lenny Kravitz. Gucci Man is the stylist for Lenny Kravitz. So Reverso tribute Tourbillon watch by Jaeger LeCoeur, and sunglasses and ring Kravitz own. Man, the style. I gotta get some money, man. I gotta get some money. I'm gonna go on eBay and buy discount designer goods. Let's continue here. So there was this one article that at the time said if Lenny Kravitz were white, he would be the next savior of rock and roll, he recalls. Instead, reviews dragged him for relying too heavily on his influences, accused him of lacking originality, of doing a Led Zeppelin impression, as if Zeppelin never ripped off anybody. I got a lot of negativity thrown at me by all these older white men who weren't going to let me have that position, he says calmly. They still aren't. 40 million records sold, 4 best male rock vocal performance Grammys in a row. Wow. An MTV Video Award from the time MTV Video Awards still mattered. Concerts at the biggest venues on the planet, the true sign of relevance in this century. He's even an annual meme. Photos of Kravitz and his bewilderingly oversized scarf flood the internet on the first day of fall each year. That's hilarious. Yeah, Lenny Kravitz is probably the most famous rock star still living, and he's probably the rock star that's actually somebody that you could model your kids after. Like, I wouldn't want my kids looking up to Slash or Axel or like Fred Durst, or definitely not Kurt Cobain. But you can tell your kids, hey, work hard, be successful, and you can be like Lenny Kravitz one day. Lenny Kravitz hasn't had a lot of scandal. He's not known as a drug abuser or a woman abuser. He's been married like off and on, whatever. He's not known as like a man who lays down with a bunch of women. He probably got more pussy than than Alexander the Great. But you get what I'm saying? Lenny Kravitz has been scandal free his entire life. And yet and still, they don't want to give him that spot. They don't want to give him that crown of being the king of rock and roll. They want to give it to everybody else. Let's continue here. They want to give it to Imagine Dragons. They want to make Imagine Dragons the number one rock group before they give it to Lenny Kravitz. That's a shame. There would be no Tyler the Creator without Lenny Kravitz, says Jay-Z. We need those moments of inspiration that pushes creativity and opens up lanes for others. Kravitz says he isn't bothered by the lack of respect he's received from critical institutions. It was discouraging at times, he'll allow, but he doesn't think much about it now. I'm good, intact, happy, healthy, focused, with still so much to do. That's more important. But ask him if he's aware of recent racist and misogynistic comments from Rolling Stone founder and former editor in chief Jan Wenner, and Kravitz sits up. We're very much so, he says. For those catching up, while promoting his new book, The Masters, touted as a visit to the Mount Olympus of rock, Wenner said in an interview with the New York Times that the reason all seven of his subjects are white men is that there aren't any women or artists of color articulate enough on the subject to speak about it. When the Times gave him an opportunity to rephrase what he said, Wenner doubled down. So if you haven't seen my live stream, that was one of the very first live streams I did on my channel. I talked about Jan Wenner in depth, and I also talked about the history of black artists in rock and roll. Go check out that live stream. I have no more comments other than fuck Jan Wenner. And I don't care if I'm pronouncing his name right. Lenny Kravitz looks cool in every picture, man. Y'all can say, Simon, get off Lenny's dick. I don't give a fuck, man. Lenny looks dope. He looks dope. He looks good at 59, man. About to crack 60. Black don't crack, baby. Black don't crack, man. Oh my God, man. I wish I had my locks, bro. My locks were dope. But I cannot pull off leather or leopard print. No, man, no. Only rock stars can pull off leopard print, man. Can a man walk around in leopard print and still get as much pussy as Lenny Kravitz? Hell no. With a wild scarf. He hijacked grandma's scarf and wrapped it around, man. He's bold. He's bold with it. You gotta be bold with the fashion. You just gotta go all the way. Coat and shirt, Saint Laurent by Anthony Vaccarello. Saint Laurent by Anthony Vaccarello sunglasses. Kravitz's own. Dope, dope, dope fits, dope fits. So it's very disappointing, Kravitz says, and sad. I've known Jan since 1987, met Wenner before he even made his first record, when Bonet was on the cover of the Hot issue, pregnant with Zoe. The two men became friendly. I've been to his house in his life. He's had Wenner's ex-wife and their children. His son Gus is the current CEO of Rolling Stone, down to the Bahamas. Now it's Kravitz's turn to double down. I was disappointed. I was very disappointed. Yeah, I don't know if I said it in the live stream, but if I didn't say it, I'll say it now. Jan Wenner should have at least talked to Ike Turner and Lenny Kravitz. If he's going to talk about rock and roll and the masters of rock and roll, you got to holler at Ike Turner, Lenny Kravitz, and my personal favorite, Gary Clark Jr. Don't be talking about who's the masters of rock and roll and you don't talk to at least one black man who still makes rock and roll today. Ike Turner's still putting out records. Lenny Kravitz still putting up numbers. And Gary Clark Jr. is a beast. Absolutely. Talk to the black masters of rock and roll. Don't talk to fucking Mick Jagger, coked out Mick Jagger. Get out of here. Anyway, it's not just the personal connection that hurts. That statement alone, even if you just heard about the man yesterday, was appalling and embarrassing, Kravitz says, and just wrong. The old reviews make a bit more sense when you read those comments, I suggest. His one word answer, yes. Kravitz is more mystified, though, by how he's been treated by black entertainment and culture outlets. Take Vibe magazine, which featured a who's who of black artists in its pages when it began publishing in 1993, but waited almost a decade to put Kravitz on the cover. And it wasn't just Vibe. To this day, I have not been invited to a BET thing or a Source Awards thing, he says. And it's like, here is a black artist who has reintroduced many black art forms, who has broken down barriers, just like those that came before me broke down. That is positive, and they don't have anything to say about it. All right, there's a lot to break down in this part of the article because Lenny is talking about he didn't get invited to the Soul Train Awards, the Vibe Awards, BET Awards, Source Awards, all that sort of stuff. And let's keep it real. The reason Lenny did not get invited to any of those awards is because all the rappers are scared that Lenny Kravitz is going to take their girls. Let's keep it absolutely a buck. If Quavo walked in with Saweetie, Saweetie's leaving with Lenny if she's there. If Meek Mill walked in with Nicki, Nicki is leaving with Lenny. I'm keeping it a buck because they're going to see the leopard print and they know that Lenny is going to do tantric things that they ain't never had done to them. You get what I'm saying? Rockstar dick hit different. I'm going to get canceled for that. I'm going to get canceled for that. Rockstar dick hit different than rapper dick. If my wife see this stream, she going to love it. She likes Lenny Kravitz. But let's keep it absolutely real. No, no. All right, I'm being facetious here. Listen, man, this is the biracial dilemma once again. And as a black man who's married to my wife, who appears to be white, though she's Middle Eastern, but I'll trigger y'all by saying she's a white woman. Uh, my wife, who's white, and I, if we do have kids, they're going to be, biracial by some, probably be light skinned or whatever. Though I got them strong black African genes that survived years of colonialism and slavery. So I think they're gonna come out pretty black. If not, they're gonna be black because their daddy is hella black. But Yeah, Kravitz probably has this dilemma where he probably didn't ask to be invited or didn't make himself available, or he surrounded himself with managers, publicists, people at the record label who didn't want to see him on the red carpet because they thought that might not be a good look for him. You get what I'm saying? Because let's keep it real. There's a stigma around the black awards. You get what I'm saying? The Source Awards, Vibe Awards, BET Awards. These are seen as second tier compared to the Grammys, the MTV Awards, and other events and that sort of thing. And so Lenny probably didn't make himself available to be there, to be on the red carpets there. If he did actually try and they turned him down, now that's bad. But I highly doubt that he was in these circles or allowed himself to be in the circles to get into those spots. But I'm gonna switch it up. I'm gonna switch it up and say that the BET Awards, Source Awards, and Vibe should have been reaching out and had Lenny there because he is a dope artist. Because think about it, we allow all the other great guitar players and people that made R&B music like the Isley Brothers, Earth, Wind and Fire, frankly, Frankie Beverly and Mays and all them to perform at those events. And those are musicians as well, just like Lenny, but they make more R&B. But yet and still, let all the musicians, let's celebrate black art in its entirety. Now, some people might say, oh, Lenny's a tether. Lenny is a tether. Lenny is a Bahamian descended Ukrainian Jew, mixed boy, whatever. Y'all might say that, but if he has never spoken out negatively about black Americans or black people in general, then we can't turn our back on him and say that he's a tether. Lenny to me is not a tether unless he starts doing some Uncle Tom stuff, like saying, oh, black people are lazy or they don't deserve reparations or whatever, et cetera, et cetera. So Lenny, is cool in my book and he deserves to be on a red carpet at any of those black ass awards. But if I have a child with my wife, right, and they're mixed or whatever, they might be caught in between those two worlds, feeling like they're not black enough for the BET Awards or, only being accepted into white spaces and black people turn their back on them. But I want to make sure that, that they don't have that complex, that they shouldn't be looking at themselves as not black enough to be in a certain event or space. You black as hell if the police beat you over the head with the baton or the job interview suddenly got awkward as soon as you walked into the room. That you're black as hell if your landlord is an asshole to you, or they don't even want to rent the apartment to you, or girls don't want to bring you home to their fathers, or whatever. You're black as hell, Lenny, and any other biracial person. I want to make this absolutely clear. I don't want anybody to think that Simon hates, biracial people or thinks they're not black enough and that sort of thing. But I think Lenny has this complex in his head, and he sort of let that dictate his career because he probably surrounded himself with a lot of, white managers who didn't allow him to move as freely into black spaces or kept him away from black spaces. But I also think it goes both ways that maybe the BET Awards, Source Awards didn't reach out to Lenny and put him where he deserves to be, amongst us. But I'm going to continue here. So Kravitz doesn't do regrets, but reflecting on past relationships, he says, I put some people through some hard times. Let's continue here. So he's got a point. The point he's talking about is not being allowed on the black red carpets at those events. And it's not as if he has scandals hanging over him. Punch Lenny Kravitz controversy into the search engine of your choice, and all that comes up is a wardrobe malfunction involving a pair of split leather pants that was out of his control. But Kravitz can't make sense of the perception he's received over the years. He doesn't understand why his success is not celebrated by the folks who run those publications or organizations. I have been that dream and example of what a black artist can do. Still, he doesn't want to complain. Life is too beautiful. I'm not here for the accolades, he says after a pause. I'm here for the experience. So, for all its gilded trappings, fame can be punishingly isolating. Yet, famous people are so rarely alone. For a long time, Kravitz was no exception. His homes were busy and loud, teeming with bandmates, revelers, and women, groupies, and neighbors. At one point, even a professional joint roller whom Kravitz used to keep in his employ. See, that's one of the worst things, man. If I was a famous celebrity, I would not have a professional joint roller because I would probably be smoking a lot of dope, a lot of good California Kush, but I can roll it up myself. And I'm not a big smoker like that. But I've heard Snoop has a professional roller. Lenny apparently has a professional roller. Little Wayne had a professional roller, and I heard Little Wayne's weed is hella strong. Somebody, I think it was. I forgot who it was, maybe Fat Joe, or somebody said that they went into the studio with Lil Wayne, hit what he was smoking on, and they said that put them like in a daze. Like it was like some crystallized shit. Anyway, yeah, that's one of the worst expenses as a rock star, your entourage. Continuing. So, people claiming to be his friend, to love him, were all around him. Who are these people? His mom used to ask. Sounds like she had good reason. On one visit to his loft on Broome Street in Manhattan's Soho neighborhood, following the release of Mama Said, she sat down to eat with her son at the dining room table. Except in a classic case of famous man feng shui, the dining room table was right next to the pool table, and there was a guy sleeping under it. He popped up at the commotion, and Roker couldn't believe her eyes. My mom looked up and said, "And your name is?" Interesting. So here's more Lenny pictures. Okay, so I can't pull off this style at all, man. The big furry scarves like this, no, not at all. Can't do that. Can't do none of these styles. You know what I mean? Looks very good at 59. Once again, dope tattoos. Dope tattoos. I want to get some more tats. Yeah, man. Lenny's a icon, man. Icon with the style. Man, stays fit, man. I gotta get in the gym. I gotta start doing some push-ups, some calisthenics, all that stuff, man. I want to look like this. Anyway, what's up with my screen, man? Hold up. Let me make this bigger. I don't know what's happening. Hold on, wait. I can't see some parts of the text. Let me refresh the page right here. Hope this doesn't lock me out. Hope Esquire keeps it free for us to read. Hope y'all are enjoying this stream. If you're watching it live or in the playback, shout out to Avery Adams for coming in, rocking with me. I think we're halfway through this article. Let's go back to where we were. Y'all let me know. Do y'all have a favorite Lenny Kravitz song? Any jam from Lenny Kravitz that y'all really like? All I really know is American Woman, honestly, but I really want to dig more into his music. So here we go. Here's where we left off. So his house in Miami, the first one, though he doesn't own any property there these days, was basically a recording studio and a nightclub. It was absolutely insane, his daughter Zoe says, referring to the period right after she arrived in the Sunshine State at age 11 to live with Kravitz for the first time in her life. He and Bonet split in 1991 and divorced in 1993. It was like living in a mall or an airport where people are just constantly coming in and out. Eventually, though, it became clear that a lot of those friends weren't actually friends. They didn't love him. I got burned, says Kravitz, completely. I put it all out there, and I put it all out there in a way for people to take advantage of it. I was an empty vessel. Kind of crazy to have your daughter or kid growing up in a house with people, always in and out. You know what I mean? I don't think that's cool. Even if I was a rock star and I had a studio and stuff like that, that's got to be separate than the house. I'm surprised he was even able to have visitation rights or custody. I hope Kravitz doesn't watch this and get offended. I'm just talking about for me as a man and maybe a potential father one day. Yeah, I can't have people in and out of the crib while, they might be doing weed, doing coke, whatever, and my daughter's right in the house. Not cool, Lenny. That's not cool. But hey, she grew up with it and maybe she turned out fine. Gonna continue here. So Zoe shares a story about an incident that wasn't funny at the time, but that she laughs about now. When the actress was 14 or 15, she and a friend descended into the kitchen to find a woman they'd never seen at the table eating a slice of pie. No big deal. There were always people she didn't know in the house. But when her dad came home and asked to be introduced to Zoe's other friend, they both froze. She ended up being some unwell person who found their way into the house, Zoe recalls. We realized we need to button this up a little bit. Yeah, that's a crazy story. Absolutely crazy. You just had a wild homeless person walk into your house eating apple pie at the dinner table. I think that's not cool, man. Absolutely not cool. It might be funny to laugh at now because nothing happened, but absolutely insane, man. Don't be having the floozies eating at the dinner table, man. You bang them out and kick them out, Lenny. You don't let the groupies stay over. That might have been a groupie that just didn't want to leave. Anyway, going to continue, but clearing ranks was unnatural for Kravitz. Saying no is very difficult for me, he explains. I was like that from childhood. My mom used to call me the Pied Piper. I bring everybody home. Just met them a few hours ago. I bring them home. I love people. I have always loved people. So, and perhaps it wasn't just his personality type, he considers, but also the color of his skin. Being black in America at that time, he says, referencing his childhood in the 70s, everybody's sticking together, everybody's helping each other. There's always an extra seat at the table, there's always extra food. You can take care of your people. Yeah, so Lenny, obviously, being a black man in the 70s, and he is visibly black. I don't want anybody coming in here saying, oh, Lenny Kravitz doesn't look black or he passes for white or whatever. You know what I mean? If I have a son, he'll probably look like Lenny Kravitz, if I keep it real with you. And you know what? Ain't nobody gonna ever confuse him for being a white man, period. And so yeah, that 70s, post civil rights, post, Black Panther era, there was still that, black pride, black unity, and we're bringing that back now in our consciousness. But I feel like in the 80s and 90s, there wasn't that black love like how we used to have, you know what I mean, with the fist every time you see a brother, or the head nod and that sort of thing, or the, just the looking out for each other. But Lenny grew up in that era, and I'm sure his, black friends he grew up with in his neighborhood probably had that sympathy too. And growing up in New York, you're surrounded by all sorts of black consciousness and that sort of stuff. So that probably affected Lenny's viewpoints on his blackness and that sort of thing. And that's a good thing for somebody who feels so jilted, somebody who feels so dejected and unwanted by black culture, at least by the mainstream media, BET and the Source Awards and Vibe and that sort of stuff. For somebody who felt that unwanted, he still has maintained his ties to blackness and has not turned on us, which happens to a lot of celebrities. A lot of celebrities, when they become mega successful and mainstream and crossover, sometimes they turn on us because they feel like black people aren't supporting them. And Lenny hasn't done that, and that's cool. I don't know if he's a Republican. I don't know if he's ever made any MAGA comments or any, anti-black comments. I don't know about all of that, but so far, Lenny in my book has been pretty cool, and he's talking pretty pro-black here. So I'm rocking with him. I rock with Lenny Kravitz until he proves me otherwise. So let's continue here. Once again, looking cool in every single picture. Y'all probably going to get tired of me saying that, but trust me, I'm not on Lenny's nuts. I'm just trying to give props to another black man. I support all beautiful melanated people. So by the time Kravitz decided to tighten his circle, he had been famous, super famous, for more than a decade. The toll was obvious. There were stretches on tour when he would get back from a show, close the blinds, and sleep until it was time to do the next one. Spend even just a little time with Kravitz, and it's obvious that he is naturally suited to having fun. But he wasn't then, and he hadn't been for a while. When Robert Plant, supporting a solo album, opened for Kravitz in the 90s, one evening included the Led Zeppelin frontman yelling at his headliner for taking his concerts too seriously. You need to start having a good time with this, Kravitz bellows, recalling the scolding. A few years later, on her deathbed, Roker offered a warning by way of an admission when she told her only son, I wish I hadn't taken it all so seriously. That's deep. That's deep, man. Nas told stories of spending Nas, when the Jay Z beef was happening with Nas, and this was like after Nostradamus and before Stillmatic and that sort of thing. Nas took time off from rap to spend time with his mother, who was dying. And rest in peace to his mother, because she had a big influence on his music and is probably the motivation for why Nas is such a dope rapper today. But Lenny sounds like he did the same thing with his mother, like, spend those last few days or moments with her. And that's an important thing. And that's something I hope to do with my parents, so that we can, both part ways in this world with no bad feelings for each other, and hopefully bury all hatchets that need to be buried and that sort of stuff. But, yeah, I really think it would be dope if somebody wrote a play or a book or a short story about Nas spending the last few moments, those last few months with his mother, because I think that's a very interesting time in Nas's career. And I think it would also be interesting too if somebody did that with Lenny Kravitz, not to be exploitative of the artist, not to just make a buck off of their tragedy, but actually just, peel a layer back on what they were going through and what motivates them to continue to go forward. Andre 3000 lost his mother too, and that motivated him to make some dope music as well. So yeah, I think tragedy makes a great artist, and Lenny Kravitz probably has seen a lot of tragedy, stuff that he doesn't want to talk about. When I look at Lenny's face, I see a man who's seen a lot but doesn't want to say a lot. And those are the type of men that I grew up with. My grandfathers, grandmothers as well. They saw a lot, but they saw a lot but didn't say a lot. And I get that vibe from Lenny too. Gonna continue here. So change wouldn't come for several more years. Kravitz had become too closed off, and he struggled with feelings of depression. There were times when I had to fight that darkness, he says now, but the people who loved him kept pushing. I used to really have to really confront him, says Zoe. Her message, I don't see you very often. Get rid of all these people. Spend more time with your kids, man. At his home, life got quieter. Kravitz evolved, blossomed. That's what's allowed all this growth, not only as a person, but as an artist, says Zoe. He's taken the time. It's the quiet moments when you have all these little epiphanies, these emotional shifts. He's made space for that. His communication, she says, improved along with his outlook. Kravitz echoes the sentiment. Now I'm in a place where I just want to embrace the light. That's true for me, too. I don't do therapy, even though I should, and I encourage everybody to talk to a therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever you need to do. Talk to your preacher, as long as he's not touching you. Make sure you talk to somebody about your problems. But the way I deal with my problems, or the things that I have going on in my mind, is similar to like what Lenny does. Like, I just like to be alone and quiet. Like today, I woke up, nobody was in the house, and I just got to scream, shout, kick myself, applaud myself, pat myself on the back, hit myself on the head, like just deal with some of the things that are going through my mind about what I'm doing right and wrong in my life. And I think Lenny does that too. And I think this can be healthy for some people, because I find myself generally, even tempered, a good natured guy. I try not to take things too seriously. I try not to take myself too seriously. I try to work hard every day to be a great breadwinner for my family, and always just strive to be a better person every single day. I have my own demons. I have my own faults, but I try to look past those things and not beat myself up too much, because you're never as bad as you say you are, and you're never as good as you think you are. And the same also applies to what other people say about you as well. So in those moments, you deal with a lot of demons. In those quiet moments when it's just you at the beach, you walking in the park, you at home all by yourself, you deal with those demons. And it's healthier to talk to a therapist, I would say, but it can also be a great practice to meditate, just be alone, and just chill. You get what I'm saying? So I hope that's absolutely clear. Going to continue here. His inner circle agrees. I don't know what the definition of a great friend is, says Denzel Washington, but I am sure there is a picture of Lenny Kravitz next to the words. Washington and Kravitz became friends so long ago that any details regarding their initial meeting are outside of memory's reach. But the actor, famous for roles in Training Day and American Gangster, does remember hearing Kravitz's music before they fell in with each other. Adding with a laugh, I don't know if I bought any of it, just being honest. The two men raised their kids alongside each other, and now they all gather at Kravitz's home in the Bahamas every year. What's better, though, says Washington, is that their greatest memories lie ahead. The best thing I can say about our friendship is that it's all happening. Very interesting that Denzel Washington, a black ass artist, a black ass man and a black ass artist, black ass actor, one of our great black icons, even admits I ain't even buy Lenny Kravitz music. But that's the thing, man. We weren't exposed to Lenny's music. Like, we just overheard some songs on pop radio, because being black in America, like, you're forced to listen to, the dominant society's music. So Denzel Washington probably did buy a Public Enemy CD or tape. He probably did buy an NWA tape. He probably did buy, a Ghetto Boys tape, because Denzel Washington came up in that hip hop generation. Yeah, he is an older black man, but Denzel Washington is probably a black man like my father, who grew up on the Isley Brothers, James Brown, and that sort of stuff. But when hip hop came around, he was down, because Denzel couldn't do Malcolm X if he wasn't a hip hop head. There's no way you can channel the energy of Malcolm X in 1993 when they made that movie and not listen to Fear of a Black Planet, or listen to X Clan and that sort of thing. You get what I'm saying? So Denzel Washington probably is the arbiter or avatar or whatever, the symbol that shows that Lenny Kravitz's music didn't penetrate black society. And we just got to be real with that. He should, though. He should be appreciated. He just wasn't marketed that way. That's a shame. So Jay-Z can't remember how he and Kravitz met either. Come to think of it, what's up with black men not remembering how we met our friends? Because I'm gonna keep it real with you. I don't remember how I met any of my friends either. Black men are the worst at like remembering like stuff in the past. At least black Americans. I can't. If you ask me about any of my homies, I don't remember the first time I met them. But all the white folks remember when they met Lenny Kravitz. Maybe it's because, we meet so many other black people, it's not like interesting to us. And maybe all the white folks remember when they met Lenny Kravitz because they don't know a lot of black people. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. Anyway, Jay Z can't remember how he and Kravitz met either. Come to think of it, been too long. But they share a group of friends and get together when they can. Over the summer, it was in Paris for Beyonce's concert. That was a great night. The rapper, recalls of seeing his wife's show with close friends. Went out, celebrated. Went out some more. Sang happy birthday to one of the people they were with and to Kravitz, who hadn't been revealed. It was his birthday, who hadn't even revealed it was his birthday. Be in Paris was super special, Jay Z says by way of explanation. Here's Kravitz once again looking hella cool, burning piano. I don't think that's safe, but maybe that's CGI. Very dope. Is he a Christian? Sonny Kravitz a Christian? Very interesting. You would think his father would make him read some Torah. Anyway, yeah, very cool picture once again. I can't pull off leather like this. Maybe I could pull off a leather jacket, leather vest, but not full leather top down. That's wild. Jumping jumpsuit by Lowell. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever worn a jumpsuit. I think I could pull off a jumpsuit, but nothing like that. Sunglasses and jewelry, Kravitz own. Let's continue here. So these days, Kravitz splits most of his time between his homes in Paris and the Bahamas, though he also owns a farm in the Brazilian highlands. In the French capital, he surrounds himself with a small group of locals, a few Americans, many Africans. They go out to eat, see concerts. Kravitz's French isn't great. I get by, he says. He loves the ballet and the opera, the fashion, and just feeling the energy of the city. I wonder if Lenny just be walking around, Paris, like how Andre 3000 be walking around New York playing the flute. You think like Lenny goes into a cafe and orders a baguette in broken French? That would be hilarious. Somebody catch that on camera. So when he wakes up each afternoon, he figures out what he wants to create that day. Often it's music. Other times it's design work with his firm, Kravitz Design, which has transformed a slew of high-end homes as well as a Manhattan apartment complex since Kravitz started the business in 2003. It may be photography. Kravitz's pictures have been shown in several exhibitions, and he shot an ad campaign for Dom Perignon. Maybe it's to do with movies. Kravitz has acted many times and quite well over the course of his career. But his most recent work in Hollywood was providing a new song for the soundtrack of the Netflix original movie Rustin, Road to Freedom. Or it could have something to do with Noche Luna, his liquor brand, which brings one of Mexico's more curious spirits, Sotol, to the international market. I want to try that. Never had some Sotol. I hate tequila. Tequila is gross. Tequila is the absolute worst. Every time I drink tequila, horrible hangover, smells bad, reeks through your skin, and yeah, there was a time I think I took tequila with some crazy white boys, and they made me like eat the worm. You know what I mean? And then they paid for the shots, so that was dope. But I'm never doing that again. And by eat the worm, I'm talking about the actual worm that's in the glass. Nobody twist that up and talk about Simon on his knees eating white cock. No, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. Anyway, I've never seen Lenny Kravitz act in anything. I've never seen him in a movie. Does he really act in movies? Somebody recommend a movie that Lenny Kravitz has been in. That's dope. So anyway, whatever it is, it's not work to him. It's just living. I'll confess something. I've always been a little bit fascinated by the impossibly attractive, somehow even more talented blended family that still connects Lisa Bonet and Lenny Kravitz. The two dated young, married young, and became parents young. Bonet, then a household name through her role on The Cosby Show, was just 21 when Zoe was born. Kravitz was 24. He credits Bonet and their relationship with finally unlocking his creative vision. Before they met, he'd been trying on alter egos like Romeo Blue, wearing blue contacts with his hair in Prince-esque Jerry curls, and considering a record deal that would have made him the frontman of an all-black version of Duran Duran. I was not sold on me. So yeah, I can understand that, and I'm not going to blame him for that. A lot of black people, especially biracial black people, probably deal with an identity crisis growing up. And yeah, putting blue contacts in, dyeing your hair weird colors, that sort of stuff. I mean, that's not abnormal because black people have been doing alternative art forms of mainstream art forms and derivatives of art forms and pushing the boundaries of rock and roll, rap, blues, everything, right? So that's not that bad. But yeah, glad he didn't go that route because we wouldn't be talking about Lenny Kravitz today the way we do now, or at least me. wouldn't be talking about him like that if he had blue contacts and dyed his dreads blonde or something. Would have been really whack. Gonna continue here. Let Love Rule is, by and large, an album about falling in love. But Kravitz and Bonet's romance didn't survive more than the first few years of his ascent. The despair Kravitz felt as it began to unravel is all over Mama Said, and the years after required a lot of work for them to be on an even keel. Zoe stayed with her mother in Topanga, California, away from the spotlight. They're good now and have been for decades. In 2005, Bonet began dating actor Jason Momoa, and Kravitz took him in as well. He became his brother and Uncle Lenny to the kids Momoa and Bonet would have together in their near 2 decade relationship. Kravitz doesn't really get the public interest in his healthy relationship with Bonet. Why is everyone so curious about how it all works? He sees posts with long captions about how they're an inspiration, how this is the way it should be between exes, and it's not as if he's not flattered. But for Kravitz, it's simple. It's family. And even it wasn't working, and even when it wasn't working, he knew one day it would. It had to. I wouldn't think of it. I wouldn't think of it as this heroic feat, he says. This is just normal to me. Once again, Lenny Kravitz proving all these stereotypes wrong about black men not being in their kids' lives. Once again, this lie that perpetually exists online and that sort of stuff about black men, abandoning their kids, not being there with their family, it's absolutely not true. Yes, a lot of black women are single mothers, but a single mother does not mean that somebody doesn't have a man in their life. By definition, a single mother is somebody who is not married to the man, at least by the US Census. But a lot of people aren't getting married anymore because marriage is scary as hell now because everybody's losing everything. Everybody's losing all their houses, their cars, their money, and that sort of stuff. So a lot of people don't want to get married, unfortunately. Is that something I agree with? No, I'm married. I take the risk, whatever. But once again, black men are in their kids' lives. Stop this lie. Stop perpetuating the lie. Lenny Kravitz is a good example, and many other black men are good examples of black fathers. Black fathers are out there. I grew up with my father in the house all the time. Yes, there are people who do not have their fathers, but that applies to a lot of people in America. A lot of white people, especially in the white trash community, the trailer park community, don't have their fathers either. A lot of white people, even if they got a lot of money, live in big ass houses in the suburbs and that sort of stuff. Mom and dad been married twice before. Mom and dad got a kid on the side. Mom and dad got a broken family that they came from too. Broken families are nothing to disparage people about, and we shouldn't disparage an entire community like black people are constantly about our broken families. Our families are not broken. Single motherhood is not destroying the black family. Black men are not abandoning their kids. It's all a lie. Let's stop it. I had to go on that tangent right here because we're going to read this article and nobody's ever going to put two and two together. Oh, Lenny Kravitz is a black man in his father's life, because a lot of white people will read this article and not put two and two together because then they disassociate that with black men. They're going to read this and say, oh, Lenny Kravitz white side is coming out. Or, that's good for that man to do it. But you don't put that on all black men. Put that on all black men. Put that on all black men. We are in our kids' lives. I'm always going to stand up for black fathers. I had a father. He was not the best. My father had a lot of faults and stuff like that. But yet and still, I appreciate him for being a black man in my life and showing me how it's done. Going to work every day, taking care of your family, taking care of your responsibilities. I don't want to do some of the negative things he's done, but yet and still, I'm always going to give props to my black father. And shout out to Lenny for being a great black dad, at least in his kids' lives. He might have made some mistakes. He might have had a homeless woman sitting at the kitchen counter eating apple pie, but yet and still, he's been there. I'm trying to read this article before my free subscription to Esquire runs out. But once again, Lenny looks dope in every picture, but I can't pull off no fur scarf like that. Let's continue. So, still true today, as that family has recently entered another new phase. Bonet and Momoa split in early 2022 after 17 years together. But according to Kravitz, the bond between each, while different, is just as important. Case in point, in a crisis of parenthood, Kravitz was stuck in the Bahamas and missed the New York premiere of the Batman starring Zoe last year. Bonet couldn't make it either. I got you, Momoa assured Kravitz. I'm going to this one. I'll be there. And he was bringing Zoe's half siblings along with him. Tabloids furiously speculated about whether Momoa and Bonet were reuniting, but they missed the point. Family shows up. It was beautiful, Kravitz says. I watched the Batman. It was the worst Batman movie I've ever seen. It was too dark, didn't know what was going on, bad dialogue, bad story. Absolutely horrible. But shout out to the family for sticking together. He has no trouble talking about his family, his ex, her ex, his mom, and the life she opened up for him. Sitting on Duke Ellington's lap at the Rainbow Room in Manhattan, being serenaded with happy birthday as he turned 6, bonding over music with Miles Davis, then married to Kravitz's godmother, Cicely Tyson, wasting away an evening right here at the Carlisle, listening to Bobby. I think they mean Bobby Womack. When he spent all his time in a school playing music rather than studying, it was Taj Mahal, the genre altering American blues singer who sat his father down and told him to let Lenny run at it. Kravitz provided his daughter with a similarly charmed childhood, but as Zoe decided to pursue acting instead of delighting her, her background caused her anxiety. And instead of running at it, she ran from it. She even tried changing her last name as she began her career. I understood it, said Kravitz, but I was like, that's your name. Yeah, don't be this. I know a lot of people, want to make it on their own and stuff like that. But if you have a leg up in Hollywood, if your mom and dad are Lenny Kravitz and Lisa Bonet, man, use that to your advantage. You don't want to be doing auditions, waiting in line with all the other never gonna be's. Just use it, man. Kravitz got you in the door. That's the lineage. That's your lineage. Don't run from it. The white folks do it. The white folks get their foot in the door by, saying, "Do you know who my father is?" Well, Lisa Bonet and Lenny Kravitz are your father, Zoe Kravitz. So use that to get into the door. They do it. We can do it too. Going to continue here. Have you been online in the past 2 years? Okay, great. So you're familiar with the term Nepo baby then. Of course, we're talking about the phenomenon at a moment when, after decades of the entertainment industry being full of sons and daughters and nephews and nieces and granddaughters and grandsons, you get it, of other famous people, the internet has finally had enough. Timelines are filled with accusations of how Nepo babies get better treatment. The term has become a slur. When New York Magazine did a story on the subject, it included a picture of Zoe on the cover. I don't understand that whole thing, Kravitz says. And it's a big if, he admits, you are good at what you do. It's not fair to put Zoe on the cover, because black Nepo babies are very few and far between. Like, the only other example of a black Nepo baby is like Denzel's son. Denzel's son, I forgot his name, the guy with the beard. He was in Tenet. He was a Nepo baby. Zoe Kravitz is a Nepo baby. But the vast majority of Nepo babies in the industry are white people. So you should have put like John Cusack's son on the cover, or the woman from Pretty Lady. I forgot her name. You get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. Most of the nepo babies are white. Put them on the cover. Don't make us the face of a problem in society. If you don't like nepotism. So let's continue here. It's been a while since Kravitz has had a serious partner. He's been one half of many and its couple over the years. After Bonet, he dated singer and model Vanessa Paradis for 5 years. He popped the question to Brazilian supermodel Adriana Lima in the early 2000s and then got engaged to Nicole Kidman not long after his previous engagement fell apart. He dated Lima's country mate and fellow lingerie model Barbara Fialho in the 2010s. From the outside, it looked pretty cool, but on the inside, as each relationship failed, Kravitz struggled. He felt cursed. Maybe it's him or maybe it's the lifestyle. Being on tour, your wife is like being a supermodel or an actress or something like that. Might be that. I have been that dream and example of what a black artist can do. Absolutely, Lenny. Yes, you have. Black excellence right here. So, growing up, Kravitz was especially close to his mother. She was strict but caring, worked tirelessly. First at NBC, then in the New York theater community, she became a household name when she landed a landmark role as part of television's first on screen interracial couple on The Jeffersons. When Roker booked that gig, only she and her son moved to LA at first. And during the show's first season, they slept next to each other on his godmother's pull-out couch. Roker took 2 buses to work, spending hours each day in transit. At home, once the show was renewed and her husband had relocated, the family living under one roof again, Roker still did all the cleaning, using her off hours to scrub floors and toilets. That's a shame, man, because I love the Jeffersons. I used to watch the Jeffersons on Nick at Night, with the Brady Bunch and Oh, what's that show? Sanford and Son, that sort of stuff. Man, those shows are classic. You get what I'm saying? And the Jeffersons used to be hilarious, hilarious. I don't remember much from the show. I should watch it again. I want to watch the Jeffersons again. But I didn't know Lenny Kravitz's mama was the woman from the Jeffersons. That's actually dope history. But it's a shame that she was working in TV and scrubbing floors and toilets at the same time. Absolutely a shame, man. I'm sure the white actresses didn't have to do that on the show. But whatever. Let's continue here. Roker was humble, but her unwillingness to show off the life she'd earned for her family was rooted elsewhere. Cy had difficulty finding his professional footing out west, trying out a variety of showbiz roles manager, agent, producer. Nothing stuck. Kravitz watched his mother make herself smaller so that her husband might feel bigger. He also floundered under his father's rule. Cy had served in the army, and for him, there was only one way of doing anything. When Kravitz was 16, the tension boiled over and he moved out, and he would never live with his parents again, spending the next few years bouncing around friends' couches and rental cars. So, yeah, growing up was probably tough for him, but probably because, the poverty of mom being like a B-list actress and dad trying to make it in showbiz. It's probably not good for a kid to grow up in that sort of environment. So at 19, Kravitz discovered that his father was having an affair. He begged his mother to fly him to the Bahamas, where she was visiting her own father, so he could break the news in person. Except Roker wasn't surprised. Cy had been cheating on her throughout their marriage, she revealed. They would stay together for a short while longer until Roker learned how much money her husband had siphoned off for his mistress and gambling. As Cy packed up and prepared to leave, Roker asked him if he had anything to say to their son, who was there to witness his departure. You'll do it too, he spat. I remember my dad. Every dad says that, man. Unfortunately, a lot of dads say that. When you catch dad cheating on mom, he'll say you'll understand when you get older. You'll understand when you get older. And as I gotten older, I can understand. I can understand. It's hard being married. It's hard being a faithful man. Black men don't cheat, and that's something that we don't do and we won't do if we love our wives or girlfriends and that sort of stuff. But it's hard. It's hard being out here as a man, especially as we get older and we age like fine wine, and especially as black don't crack. And a lot of women will continue to find us attractive and be attracted to us, especially when you reach that DILF status. You get what I'm saying? But you keep it in your pants. You remember what you got in for. We're in marriages, we're in relationships to build stability, to build a household, to build a legacy, to create a family that people can be proud of. Uh, Primarily the people that are in it, but also people that admire us and look up to us as well. So that's what it should be. And yeah, man, every dad says that you'll understand when you get older, and they mean it, and it's true. But you don't have to follow in your father's footsteps of philandering and flopping your penis around. So let's continue here. There's a saying in the Bahamas for a moment like that: "Don't put mouth on me." In the spiritual world, it's called a word curse. Kravitz says across our table at Bemelman's. Bemelman's. I can't pronounce that. It goes back to anything in the Bible where God spoke everything before it was done. Let there be light. The light just wasn't there. He spoke it into existence. So Kravitz felt that his father spoke something into existence for him. Cy's words haunted him for years. I felt it when he said it, but the shock waves lasted decades and got stronger and stronger and stronger. Yeah, that's a generational trauma, man. A lot of our dads put stuff on us, especially as boys too, because there's like that competitiveness. A lot of people don't understand that if you're a father in the household and you have a son, there's that male energy, and it's hard for that male energy to coexist under the same roof, especially when a man, that young boy starts to become like a teen, and he's got adrenaline, he's getting stronger, he could probably whoop his dad's ass and that sort of stuff. And so a lot of fathers try to put fear and instill that in their sons and abuse them mentally or physically and that sort of stuff. And it's not as severe as I'm trying to make it seem to be, but I got whoopings when I grew up, and I know looking back, a lot of my whoopings were probably because my dad was pissed off about something at work, or he just wanted to challenge the other big male in the house and that sort of stuff. And I hope not to repeat that pattern by saying words to my son or daughter that would traumatize them or being physically abusive to them. I don't plan on hitting them, and I'll try to keep my tongue, under control to not, damage them by saying stuff like you'll cheat on your mother too one day, or one day you're gonna, be all alone and broke and stuff like that. Because these are things like my father said to me, one day you're gonna be up in jail with the other Muslims and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to end up in that situation where you're passing that trauma, and the words that you say to your kids stick with them forever. It's not cool. So yeah, Lenny probably dealt with that. And yeah, this is a one picture where that Balenciaga coat does not look fire. Looks like he spent like $5,000 on a coat that you could have got at Zara for 40. Gonna continue here. So he did indeed have trouble staying faithful in his romantic relationships. I won't lie to you, he says alongside the admission, hands folded in front of him, and with being confident that this is the person for me, always thinking something else may be better. That's all worked itself out now. It was hardcore. It took years, more than he would have liked, though he doesn't do regret. Those moments, he says, are part of the journey. Still, he certainly sounds sorry when he recalls what his own partners went through. I put some people through some hard times. Continuing on, Kravitz has come close to marriage a couple of times since his split with Bonet. The desire has always been there, he says, accounting for the near misses. The tools in which to do so have not always been there. He's currently single, but he'd get married again. He wants to, actually. Absolutely. I've grown enough. I've become stronger. I've become more disciplined. I've become more open to be able to do so. But it's been a very difficult thing for me to figure out. Though he hasn't come close again, he's open to having more kids too. I could not, and I could, he explains. If it doesn't happen, I've done the best with Zoe that I could ever dream to do. If I was with somebody that wanted to have kids, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I think at 59, Lenny, you shouldn't be trying to pop him out. I got an uncle that had his first one when he was like 40. You know what I mean? And it just didn't. Shout out to my uncle who did that, but yeah, it's not something that I would do. But the way it's looking in my life right now, I'm probably gonna have kids like by the time I'm in my late 30s, if I get to live that long, inshallah. Who knows what the next day will bring? I know a lot of haters want to see me die. I know a lot of people want to see me fall. I know a lot of people want Simon to croak right now on live stream. I know I got a lot of hate out there because I see it in the comments from people who just hate a young black man using his voice and living his best life. But you know what? I'm probably gonna live a very long, happy, successful life, and I hope Lenny does too. But I don't think black men should be popping out kids at like, 40, 50, 59, whatever. It's not cool, man. Because you know what? Let's keep it real. Our lifespans, you know, it's short. It's short. A lot of black men suffer from like heart conditions, high cholesterol, stress levels, suicide, that sort of stuff. I'm not trying to make it dark, but I'm just saying, man, we should live for our kids, but you shouldn't be popping them out that old, in my opinion. I might be going off on a tangent here, but y'all let me know if you feel me. So, as for Kravitz and his own father, they got to a better place before Sai's death. It didn't come easy. There was so much resentment, Kravitz admits, so much yearning to be loved by him in a way that I could comprehend. But Roker urged Kravitz not to ever give up on his pops. That's your dad, she always said, and you're going to do what you're supposed to do. Honor thy father. No ifs, buts, or unlesses. Continuing, as Sai aged, his hardened posture toward his son began to soften. Once, when they were sitting together watching baseball, not really talking at all, Sai turned to Kravitz. I can't believe what you've achieved, he said. Near the end of his life in the hospital, he apologized to Kravitz as well as to Kravitz's half sisters. That was the moment, says Kravitz, the healing process for him finally began. Still, it's never enough time, is it? Total forgiveness was still a ways off. I wish he got to live to when I had grown more, says Kravitz, where I could have loved on him in a deeper way. We would have had so much fun if he could have lived to the place where I learned what I needed to learn. Kravitz imagines the memories they've shared instead. In my mind, I dream of all the fun we could have had. He says, it's not the same, but it's enough. I don't, as my own man and that sort of thing. I hope y'all can still hear me. But I don't think I could ever get to the point where Lenny is, even if my father passes away, where I'm like, I wish he was here. I wish he could enjoy things with me. Because that's sort of like how I feel about my wife. And that's sort of like how I feel about myself, honestly. Like, I'm still amazed that I'm here after everything that I've been through, that I've gone through the things I've seen, that I'm able to do the things I do, and that I'm able to take care of myself in a certain way that most people find unorthodox, but I find it amazing because I'm a survivor. And if you're watching this now and you're black, especially a black man, you're a survivor too, because we live in a world that is hostile to our life and expression. And when I say world, I mean world. Been all around the globe. The whole world hates on black men. And men like Lenny Kravitz and men like myself are survivors to the ultimate extent. Lenny Kravitz probably went through drugs, fame, and rock and roll and came out on the other end an enlightened Buddha type individual. Simon Hill is here right now, 33 years old, after traveling around the world, sticking my dick in places that it didn't need to be, going into hoods and spots where I wasn't wanted, talking crazy about people that felt like they would rather kill me than hearing what I have to say. I've been through all of that and I'm still here standing here strong. Antoine Fisher, I'm still here. Yeah, we still here. We still big top. We still big sexy, and we still gonna keep on going how we need to go. You feel me? So yeah, I don't know if I'll ever get to that point with my father, wishing that he was around and stuff like that. I wish the most love for him. I love my father, but I would never. How can I say? You know, want to be that close to him. You know what I mean? He becomes intense after a certain amount of time. Gonna continue here with this article. We're almost done. I think this is the final chapter. So, rock icons are rarely known for moderation, but Kravitz has worked hard to keep any potential vices in check. Hard drugs were never really his thing, though he did famously admit to smoking weed every single day from ages 11 to 35. Drinking wasn't a problem either. Kravitz is not sober, but he can go months at a time without booze. Sex, while readily available and sometimes with a person other than his girlfriend, was never something he says he aggressively chased. I was more motivated by love. Interesting. Much of his approach to sex was formed while he was in high school. I remember the girls always liking the bad guys, he says. And it was like, if I have to act like them to have a girlfriend, I'm not down. There was also an incident that Kravitz writes about in his excellent 2020 memoir, Let Love Rule. When his parents were out of town, they enlisted a family friend to watch their son, then a teenager. And one night, when that man, old enough to be an uncle, had friends over, Kravitz retired to his room to sleep. A woman soon entered, slipped into his bed, and began touching him. It's a brief passage, but he writes that the incident would affect the way he would view sex from then on. I wasn't interested in convincing or coercing women. He writes about his approach to intimacy going forward. I'd been coerced myself and I didn't like it. I'm lucky enough that I didn't have any experiences like that, at least that I can recall. I've dealt with some aggressive women when it comes to wanting to have sex, but I've never been like forced into it, I could say. And I've never had an older person take advantage of me. But this story is very common for a lot of people. A lot of men, but specifically a lot of black men, because I would say about one out of the three friends that I've had who have been black men have told me that somebody touched them. It could have been a cousin, it could have been a babysitter, could have been an auntie, could have been some older girl at school, something like that, right? I've heard a lot of abuse stories from men, black men, unfortunately, and that's not cool. It's absolutely not cool to touch on people that don't want to be touched on, or to force them to lay with you. It's absolutely not right for that to happen to women or men. Nobody. If people say no, let it go. Going to continue here. I ask if he considers the interaction sexual assault. Kravitz resists the label. It was an experience and a lesson, he begins. Everything doesn't have to be so. He changes course. I'm not saying that there aren't things that deserve to be addressed. Maybe somebody would say it should have been addressed and that it was whatever. But that's the time it was. I lived and I learned. I wasn't traumatized. So, what can throw Kravitz off balance? All internal factors, it turns out. As a naturally introspective person, he's long struggled with overthinking. He's also still prone to darkness and feeling down, he admits. It could happen tomorrow, but over the years, he's been able to shorten the duration of the spells. What used to last days or weeks now takes up only a few hours of his time, never more than a day. I won't let that go overnight, he says. The path out is mental and physical. Kravitz believes his intense dedication to his diet and exercise greatly helps him stay positive. It's not just the actual food he eats, which is mainly vegan and primarily raw, or the specific moves he does in the gym. It's the discipline to make those decisions. It's the sacrifice, he says, and then accomplishing the daily goals. When you exercise that, it makes you stronger in all the other ways. Absolutely true. Very dope that he's, staying fit, staying healthy. Got to get into that, man. He's an inspiration. It's also spiritual. Ask Kravitz about the roots of his relentless optimism, and the answer comes quickly. My constant faith in God and the power of love. Though for a time in his youth he considered observing his father's faith and getting bar mitzvahed, Kravitz experienced a religious conversion in middle school and has accepted the gospel of Jesus Christ ever since. He tried out a few churches in LA afterward, but he doesn't claim an organization as his own now. For the most part, church is everyday life. He says, I wake up in church and I'm aware of God all day long. I can't escape it. It's so powerful to me. So he's more spiritual than religious, and that's cool. Lenny Kravitz, I don't think other Jews would view Lenny Kravitz as Jewish, because your mother has to be Jewish to be considered a Jew. And I think there's some debate within that community, but either way, Lenny Kravitz is a black man. We're claiming him. If the whites want to have him, they got to trade him for somebody good. They got to trade the whites. If the whites want Lenny Kravitz, they got to give us, I don't know, I can't even think of anybody right now. Can't even think. So, coat, shirt, trousers, boots, Saint Laurent by Anthony Vaccarello, Saint Laurent by Anthony Vaccarello, sunglasses, Kravitz is on. I can't pull off leopard print, man. I've never seen a man look good in leopard print. So, the LGBTQ plus community has been a huge influence on Kravitz throughout his life, not only in fashion and style, because that's just something on top, he says, but in deeper ways too. They raised me. I was in the street, my choice, and it was the 80s in West Hollywood. It was that time. Artists, musicians, hairstylists, and designers, those were the people I was hanging out with. I wanted to be around the creatives, and most of the people I met were from that community. They took him in and, as he says, protected me, educated me, fed me. Kravitz doesn't deny that organized religion has been awful to the community he loves. They aren't the only ones who have had the good word weaponized against them. He is quick to remind me the Ku Klux Klan themselves were reading out of the Bible, he says. And as he figures, and history surely supports, people will always use Jesus Christ to back up something that's got something to do with how Jesus Christ would handle a situation. That's a reality that changes his relationship only with church, not God, says Kravitz. And yeah, that's sort of how I view Islam right now. I am a Muslim. I identify as a Muslim. I love Allah and his prophet. I believe in Allah and his messenger. But unfortunately, within Islam, there is a lot of negative things that I disagree with. And of course, the anti black racism in the Islamic Ummah is out of control. So I'm always going to be anti white supremacy or anti blackness. So I'm always going to be on that side of the fence with it. And so far, I'm practicing my Islam by just being aware of God. I say alhamdulillah to myself every day. I'm thankful for God for giving me life and being here right now and being able to be with my wife and continuing to have a future as far as I can see, inshallah. But I don't, pray 5 times a day. I don't fast. I don't avoid the haram things, but I just try to be a good person, keep God in the front of my mind, and continue to do what I think I'm put here to do. Going to continue here. Denzel Washington, the son of a Pentecostal minister and now a self proclaimed man of God, finds inspiration in Kravitz's relationship with the divine. I read the daily word every day, he says, and the word for today, I tore that piece of paper out, so maybe I was supposed to read some of it to you, is inspire. I wonder how Denzel did not convert to Islam after doing Malcolm X. Because come on, man, that was a very intense movie, and Malcolm X was saying like Christianity. Basically was used to destroy black people's minds and the will to fight against white supremacy, which is true. That's a belief I still hold to this day. No offense to black Christians, but I view being a black Christian in America, I believe you're sort of like dishonoring your ancestors, because they had to whip and beat our ancestors to follow the cross. And, if you're going along with that, you might as well be saying that slavery was good for us, in my opinion. But if Kravitz wants to be a Christian, if Denzel wants to be a Christian, that's their choice. You get what I'm saying? I just find it problematic. Gonna continue here. I've just asked if he could speak to what role faith plays in his relationship with Kravitz, and Washington reads me the entry in reply. I give thanks for those who have helped me spiritually as I reflect on those teachers and wise guys who've inspired me along my spiritual journey. I prayerfully center each one in the love and light of God, remembering the way they supported and encouraged me. These radiant souls nurtured my spiritual growth. I don't know if that's an answer to your question, he says, but that's my answer. So, real quick, I got to check to make sure my wife can get in the door. Y'all hold still. All right, we good. Let's finish up this article. We're almost at the very end. Lenny Kravitz looks like he just woke up. It's 1 p.m. the following Wednesday, and he's in Miami. We're on Zoom, and Kravitz is in bed wearing a silvery sheer tank top. He's there only for a second as he seems to reconsider his background, quickly moving in the kitchen of wherever he is staying. After a few minutes, he makes an espresso. Okay, this is wild. Why you FaceTime? See, this is a woman that wrote this, and she really probably wanted to get in Lenny Kravitz's panties. No, I'm joking. No, seriously, why would you write that in the article? This is why rock stars generally hate like rock journalists. And then Lenny will probably hate me, and a lot of rappers probably hate me, and a lot of fans probably hate me for writing like what I write in music. But come on now, don't do that. Don't do that. See, a lot of rock journalists want to get the scoop on their artists that they're covering and try to get something salacious out of them. But you can't make a lot of salacious stuff out of Lenny Kravitz because he's like scandal free. He's like a generally good guy. So you're gonna write that he's up in bed in a sheer tank top on Zoom in a messy bed in Miami. Like, come on, man. Anyway, gonna continue here. When we parted the week before, Kravitz was heading straight into his dentist's office to discuss plans for their annual dental mission in the Bahamas. The next day, he had a big photo shoot, hours, and then jetted off to Florida to film a new music video. Somewhere along the way, he also dropped the video for Blue Electric Lights lead single TK 421. Why did that song get tapped to go first? Kravitz played the unreleased LP for a couple of friends. You know them as Bono and The Edge of U2, and they were insistent. They even texted me days later saying, "You really need to come out with that one first." Yeah, don't listen to other rock stars or other artists tell you what your single should be, because they're going to make sure that you pick the weakest song on your album to be your single because they don't want competition. You don't do that at all. You pick the single when you're picking what's going to lead off on your album, or you pick people you trust in your circle. But you don't ask the competition, "Hey, what should be the lead single?" That's dumb. That's bad artistry, in my opinion. Anyway, coat, hoodie, and jeans by Balenciaga. Sunglasses, Kravitz's own. Once again, these jeans are dope. I can't pull off that mid rift, man. I can't pull off mid rift. I gotta go fully raw Bahamian vegan like Lenny if I want to look this good at 59. Gonna wrap up here. It's a glamorous spirit. It's a glamorous sprint of events, sure, but also kind of a grind. And at this point in Kravitz's life, totally optional, at least financially. When artists could still make money off selling records, he sold a hell of a lot of them. He lives in an 8 bedroom townhouse in Paris. That farm in Brazil, it's 1,000 acres. There's the Bahamas place too, of course. I suggest as much, and Kravitz shrugs, but Jay-Z gets what I'm saying. There was a point early on that I was like, I got to do the Jay-Z voice. There was a point early on and that I was like, how is this guy so sick? Like, what's going on? Just as his lifestyle. He's like a Renaissance man living between Paris and New York. And then I remember that he writes and produces. There's no one else in the process. I remember thinking about extraordinarily talented. I, pardon. I remember thinking how extraordinarily talented he is. And then I remember thinking, wow, those publishing checks. He could probably take a break if he wanted, but what is that? Kravitz says in response, you know what I mean? What drives me is the creative. It's not just something to do, it's the thing to do. His raison d'etre. The most grueling extension of his creativity is, without a doubt, touring. 34 years in, Kravitz knows what it takes to prepare for years on the road. Your life is that. Once tickets go on sale, he says, your whole life is centered around being able to do those 2.5 hours every night. So you don't hang out, you don't smoke, you don't drink, you don't talk a lot. You've got to get your sleep. You have to want to do it. In other words, you have to need to do it. It doesn't just happen. Kravitz cautions, but he won't stop anytime soon. He's built his entire existence around being able to do it. And there's a Bahamian phrase for that as well. If you love it, let it kill you. I don't know about that phrase. I don't know about that phrase. I think the Bahamas got to work on their sayings. I'm not going to use that one. If you love it, let it kill you. No, 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 no. If you love it, let it live you. Let it fuel your life. But yeah, touring is hard. Back when I wanted to be a rapper, I was looking forward to going on tour, like going to different cities, doing shows in front of fans and stuff like that. I thought that was the coolest thing. And that was basically the only motivation for me wanting to rap, like to see the world. But, rapping didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, but yet and still I got to see the world using my words in a different way. So, once again, Lenny's bringing out a good point. When you're touring, when you're out on the road, you got to stay focused. It's like exercising. Outcast used to be trained to perform, and I think it was who was the CEO of like Jive or something like that. One of those famous black executives. I think it was Andre Harrell, the guy with the round glasses like that. He used to make Andre and Big Boy run while rapping their verses from their album from front to back. That's hard. And yeah, Lenny Kravitz was talking about that too, and that's a real thing. But that's also why he looks good at that age, man. So what did we get from this article? I thought there was a lot to unpack here. Lenny Kravitz broke down the racism that he's felt as a black rock star. The dad rock rock review guys, the dad rock review guys didn't want to give Lenny his props. Black entertainment venues didn't want to allow him on the red carpet, and possibly Lenny didn't make himself available for that. Being a biracial person, he probably didn't, feel like he fit in, but that's a complex he has within himself. Black people, we've always celebrated other black artists, but if you don't make yourself available for the celebration, you can't complain that you're not invited to the cookout, is my opinion. But overall, I thought this was very dope. This was a very long live stream, but we read the entire article from beginning to end. Check it out if for the link in the description. Let me give a shout out to Avery Adams and everybody's going to watch this on the playback. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm probably going to do another live stream. Let's see. I'll do another live stream when I hit. How many subscribers do I want to hit? I want to hit 2,325 subscribers. 2,325 subscribers before I do another live. I might post another video at, let's say, 2,320 subs. So look out for that, and peace.